So board members, just to mention, I have been sending the surveys to your email. So if you've been looking on your email, you should have seen some of the surveys coming through. Next batch is still coming in. So I'll send out a fourth batch here in just a little bit.
Okay. Okay, we're all here.
Okay. Well, I thought we would start this conversation like we did last time, if we remember back, as the president pointed out 51 weeks ago. We went through the same process, and we'll talk about first each of the candidates, and we'll start with our first candidate, Dr. Davenport. We'll talk about the things that we heard that resonated with us that we really liked, and then we'll talk about our wonders. So kind of those lingering things that we're wondering after our interview with each of the candidates. So what I'd like to do is I'll just kind of start as I see you on my screen. If I get to you and everything that you were going to say has already been said, then don't be afraid to just go ahead and pass. You can just, acknowledge that, hey, everything that I was going to say has already been said, and we can just continue moving on. If you have something that hasn't been said that you would like to add, then please feel free to do so. So starting on my screen, I have President Lawrence first. So your likes on Dr. Davenport.
I liked that he talked about rebranding one of the districts that he worked in, making the community know that they were a product worth supporting. When we talked about cultural competency, he talked about being a student, not making assumptions. I liked that. He talked about constant growth. My handwriting became atrocious for a while. I like that he recognizes, of course, that there's a teacher shortage and we need to work on recruitment, focus on recruitment. He talked about how he works hand in hand with the unions. He talked a little bit about his own personal story, coming from a union family that obviously rings true to a lot of people in our area. When we talked about making decisions on controversial issues, he really nailed it when he said he always thinks about what's best for children. And of course, all of us are always keeping that in our mind as well. When we talked about the budget development process, he talked about having two teams together, one thinking about what's best financially, the other thinking about what's best for kids, and he would bring those two teams together, and I loved that. And I kind of thought of it like a trial. Both team is advocating for their client essentially, and they have to come to an agreement. He said he believes in over communication with the board. We all like that. And I loved the story and the example that he used about starting the Montessori program. Obviously, our Montessori program is one of the things that we're proudest of in our district. It's beloved in the community, it's beloved in the district, and I thought that was really cool to hear about how he did that, and I really enjoyed hearing about that.
Okay, how about some wonders?
He alluded to a mistake. Again, when we were talking about teacher recruitment, he said, that's a mistake I won't make again. And I don't really know what he was talking about. I'm curious why he's leaving his current district after being there for a relatively brief period of time. Frankly, I'm curious with any applicant who's not from our immediate area, looking back on this past year, it's been so important to have strong relationships with different decision makers and different governmental officials in the area. And I'm concerned that if we bring in someone who's not from this area and doesn't have those connections, is that going to be detrimental to the district? Those are my only comments.
Okay. Trustee Lopez.
You're muted.
Okay. All right.
There you go.
Here we go. Because what I was starting to say is that some of the things that President Lawrence mentioned, or right on target. I looked at. I think I'm going to have a little time to digest my notes. I liked some of the answers that the first candidate gave. Very good answers. My concern is really the short period of time he has spent in any of the assignments. Some call it jumping around, I don't know, but I liked him as far as his thoughts about cultural competency, his thoughts about recruitment. Education is need to make education more exciting, those kinds of things. But I really need to take some time to look at this over. As far as hiring somebody from inside or outside the district, I think depends how much change we want in our district, because we move post-COVID. And because I think it's a brand new ball game, post-COVID. I don't know that anybody has the right or the magic response and plan for post-COVID. So in that sense, I think we need to evaluate that very well. We need to look at that and see how it would look for us for next post-COVID. So I think I'll give my final on each of the candidates when we get ready to identify who stays for the second round.
All right. Thank you. Trustee Lilje?
Thank you. Okay, so there were lots of things I really liked. I appreciated how near the end he was asking questions and saying, what we say publicly is one thing, but I'm really interested to know, what's the meat of it? What's the truth? What's the context? I appreciated that digging, for authenticity. I think that could foster, honest conversations, which I think are really important. I loved how he talked about needing to compete with TikTok and that world that kids are in is ever evolving, and that idea of us trying to adapt and engage with the things that kids are really already engaged with. What can we learn from those things? He has lots of experience in a variety of different urban districts with different demographics. I liked that. I appreciated his answer about controversial decision making, that it was really methodical. Is it legal? Is it ethical? Moving through and finally what's best for kids is going to be, a guiding principle. And President Lawrence, I remember when he was saying, I'll never make that mistake again. I remember what he was talking about. He was saying he was really aggressive at recruiting new teachers and filling all the spots, but he didn't put enough into how to retain them and make sure they felt supported and nurtured in their new setting. So I thought that was a good lesson that he learned. My wonders are about his ability to function within big systems. He obviously likes to roll up his sleeves and is not afraid to work really hard and get the job done. But like a superintendent for Lansing can't be the one that does it all. And the superintendent for Lansing has to understand how to manage a giant organization with thousands of people, and how to be intentional with all of the systems in place and make sure that the systems do the work. And so that was my wonder, is like, is there experience there with big systems? Or will it be too tempting to just kind of roll up sleeves and try to get mired down, instead of running the whole thing from this big broad view to get down in those weeds?
Sure.
That's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Dr. Rodriguez.
Thank you very much. I think the people that talked before me, they had a really good perception of what this person present to us this evening. I like to say that he mentioned several times the students first. We need to have the students first, and sometimes we go for the adults first. Then I think that was a very good way to. And then the second presence, he said, I will be present in the schools, I will visit in the schools, I will talk with the principals, I will even mention that he will be in the bus. Then that is visibility for him. It's just more than just to be present, it's how he's going to present that to the whole district and how to work with that. Also, I think that he said if I recruit people, it's going to be about talent and integrity. It's going to be about what these persons are going to contribute to the students. I think that was a very good. Also, communication. He talked a lot of times about communication, and I think that was a very good. I think the problem of recruiting teachers is making him to say that from now on I'm going to do different things than what I did that time that I made a mistake. I think I also mentioned how we can do better for every one of the students and how they understand the role. That is all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. Vice President Willis.
Thank you. For Dr. Davenport, I mentioned the pros I have is that he mentioned that he likes to support others. I liked his phrase when he said, inspect what you expect. And he focused a lot on setting a lead by example. I just want to highlight again what President Lawrence said about the way that he made the example, set his example about how he makes his decisions. That really stood out to me. So always what's best for kids, the legal, ethical, again, best for kids. And I like that perspective, way that he brings folks to the table. I just want to highlight that again. And I also wanted to lift the way that he responded to his relationship with boards, have that being a two-way street that's built on trust, transparency, integrity, and honesty. My wonders are, my notes for that highlighted are, I felt like his examples were not necessarily very specific, and it left some things, didn't really get to that idea of the action with results, like he didn't really answer the questions in a helpful way, but that just left some things I outstanding. Again, someone already mentioned this, but ability to function within systems, especially a large system like Lansing. And some of his questions were not necessarily, which this wasn't explicitly tied. This wasn't explicitly asked. So I want to be fair about that. And maybe it's because the other two candidates did a much better job highlighting this connection, but he didn't necessarily spend much time connecting his experience to the classroom or academics at all. He didn't really make that connection in the way he answered his questions. So it left me wondering what is his, oh gosh, I'm tired. I'm not going to think of a good fancy word, but really what is his like experience or baseline or, you know, level with connecting his current decision makings back to the classroom and that classroom experience. So sorry that
I got you.
All right,
Good.
that's all I'm saying there. All right, thanks.
You're good. All right, thank you. Trustee Moore.
Oh, okay, I'm not muted. I think Vice President Willis was in my brain because she said exactly what I was thinking.
Okay, good. So, I'm sorry.
No, look, Jack, Mr.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
With it. I'm okay with it because I said, I don't need to repeat it because that's exactly what I was thinking. The results, I didn't see it. And you guys help me out. I'm open for criticism if I'm being too harsh. This is my first time in this space with this process. So let me know if I'm out of order, but I ditto Vice President Willis.
Nope, that's absolutely fine. There's no need to repeat yourself. If you don't have anything new to add, then we'll just keep on rolling. All right, Dr. Burrows.
Hi. I really liked his personal experiences as a teacher. The honesty that he spoke about going into a community that he didn't have the personal experience with and having to confront that and change and adapt. I thought that spoke very well of him. There was a very clear commitment to education, as difficult as it sometimes is on a personal level. I also really like the fact that he clearly understands what it's like to be a teacher in a large urban district. That's really important. So those I thought were some of the best assets I saw. I had a lot of questions about specificity, but also about depth of perspective. It seemed like some of the responses didn't get into the level of like really thoughtful detail about how they would apply to your role as a leader in a large organization. So that was my biggest concern. There's something I think was, I heard a lot tonight I heard a lot about what it was like to be a principal and not a lot about what it was like to be a superintendent. So that was my wonder there.
All right, thank you. Dr. Body?
Okay, I'm going to try to interject new things, but I might not be able to, so I'll be quick. The answer that I liked the best was probably the one about the obstacle to improving student achievement. And he said we're in a losing battle with TikTok and YouTube and the internet. I also, like Dr. Burrows, appreciated his answer about teaching in Southwest Detroit in Mexican town and having to learn and adapt to the culture. My wonders were regarding the lack of specificity of some of the answers and a tendency to perhaps repeat some of the things that he was saying in multiple answers. And then I think my new addition is that I actually put in italics and quotes when he was in the process of wrapping up his answer to one of the questions. He said, "Wherever I land," meaning that he's actively looking to land somewhere else than where he presently is, and that I wasn't sure about his commitment to us as a district per se versus his commitment to just landing somewhere.
Okay. So Dr. Body, when you get a chance, I'd like you to teach me how to write in italics, because that's something that I'm lacking in my note taking.
On a computer. I typed it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Control I is how you do that.
I'll try that. Trustee Hodgen. All right. we will move on to, unless anyone has any final thoughts on Dr. Davenport, we'll move on to our second interview of the night, Ms. Benavides. And I will reverse my order. So that means, Dr. Body, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, let me pull that document up. Okay. So, of course, one of her strengths is her intimate knowledge with how things work in our district. She's very well versed in the questions that she was being asked. She has strong experience as it pertains to the budget in our district. And she has spent a good amount of time establishing relationships here in the district. And so I appreciated her answer about her commitment to diversity and working with the teachers' unions and affirming people. I wonder about I guess administrative experience more broadly, and for as much knowledge as she has of the district, I wonder if the jump from her current position to superintendent is something that the board will ultimately decide to support. I guess in simple English, I wonder if she's fully ready to make the leap from her current job to this possible next job. And she may be, but I wonder about it.
Okay, sure. Thank you. Dr. Burrows?
I was very conflicted during this one. I loved a lot of the language about the importance of building collaborative teams and communication. I saw a real, not just knowledge, but thoughtfulness about building internal systems and managing programs. And obviously extensive background in the district. I won't harp on that. So those were some real strengths. What I wonder about is I didn't notice the same level of systematic thinking or experiencing with building outward systems or diversity systems, whether it was, enunciating a vision or building a political coalition to support a budget or a major institutional change, or thinking about when you're talking about cultural competency or diversity, that it's not necessarily an individual question, it's more of a system question that you've got to cope with. And those are things I think come with being in those higher level positions for longer. So I think there's a lot of strengths, but I do have a few questions there.
Okay. Trustee Moore?
Okay, I can ditto a lot of what the previous trustees said. However, I really enjoyed her knowledge of the district, her passion for the students. And I was trying not to have my biases. I was really trying to put my biases under, because people have been in my ear. Is that how this goes? People reach out to you and and I had to shut that down. But I will say that I wonder about her transition. I wonder about her administrative. Is she ready for that? She has a lot of experience, but that's my wonder. But other than that, her passion, I can agree with both trustees. But one thing that did stand out to me, something that she said, and I love this because as a leader, I think it's extremely important that, what did she say? You grow the people, you make sure, it's in here somewhere. I don't want to keep you all because I'm tired too. As a leader, you have to make sure you grow the people around you. So to me, that's important. And as a superintendent, it's not a one person show. And so, that's my intake. I don't want to keep you guys because I'm tired.
Okay, thank you. Vice President Willis.
So the way that Dr. Body summarized her strengths and everything that entailed as far as her relationship with the district, spot on. I just want to echo that. Same thing as what Ms. Moore said about Explicitly, she said she's committed to growing leaders around her. That's what she said, and I really like that. One of the best things that stood out to me is her acknowledgement. She said that she acknowledged that she was an early adapter and that when she moved into an administrative role, she learned that she had to learn how to do systems change. And I really like how she acknowledged that and gave an example of how she had to grow in order to make decisions. And she gave a lot of examples, the way that she answered the questions that gave us some insight into how she makes decisions. And so I really like that. Things that leave me wondering. So the example that she gave at the end about the absenteeism, I thought that was great. I thought that was very insightful. Where I have questions are, so she gave an example of absenteeism and talked about how she was responding, but she didn't necessarily talk about prevention. And so my question is, does she have the skill set to move upstream when it comes to creating systems change and actually do preventive systems changes? So I'm not saying that she doesn't have the skill or it's something that maybe just wasn't highlighted, but that's the wonder I have is, does she have that broader skill capacity to move upstream in the way she makes decision? Because right now, all of the examples she gave were very much how she gave decisions to reactive. And she kind of touched on it a little bit when she talked about adapting her school from a pre-K 3 to a 4-6, but I still would like to hear more for broader systems, how she does that.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Rodriguez?
Thank you. I think that Mrs. Lewis was very, very clever when she mentioned about the absenteeism. I don't want to analyze that answer. There are many other things why the students are not learning. But I think that should be elaborated a little bit more. But I am happy that we have a person like her working in Lansing School District. I think that is show to us what the caliber of the people who have here, that we have here in Lansing School District. She mentioned too very frequently about her role as a principal and not as much as a leader in the team. I think she can do talk a little bit more about her leadership, except that she knows about the budget, especially the few $millions from the federal or from the grant, and the process that she's using. I like it a lot. Then I agree with the previous board members, and we go from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Lilje?
Thank you. Echoing so much of what has already been said, I just loved about her answers that they were specific, data-informed, results-driven examples. Really appreciate. I felt like, oh, I could see that. I could see that. I could see that just across the board. That I really appreciated that. Yeah, I don't really have anything new to add besides that.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Lopez?
Yeah, thank you. Besides everything else that's been said, because there was a lot already that has been said about her, but one of the things that I liked is you said building successful teams, and that to me means that she doesn't have to know everything, but she needs to be able to manage and understand other people that have the expertise. So in some of those issues that we talked about, we don't expect the superintendents to know everything, because they don't have time to begin with. But I think successful teams are the key. So I like that a lot. As far as the next step for her, I think we're going to have to really put some time on this and be honest with ourselves about that next step for her. Is it the right time for her, in this process? But that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. President Lawrence.
My wonder with Jessica is if she would feel Ms. Benavides, is if she would feel comfortable essentially being the boss of people who have been the boss of her. My likes are, again, she had really specific examples. She has a proven track record. She could point to this very recent time when she developed this team with the EL testing and pulled together all the different areas that she needed and successfully administered this test for these kids. She's managed $80 million recently in grants. She talked about how she's built teams, improved student achievement, creating a warm and welcome culture for families at Sheridan Road. I like that she acknowledged that we all have implicit biases. That's really important. I think that's more important than we're recognizing. Agree that absenteeism is the crux of most problems, and it's her job to understand why and help kids get around that. And I'll keep it at that.
All right. How about we start you off?
I like what she said. We need to have a plan after the COVID-19 when the students come back to the buildings. I like that particular insert inside of the whole interview. We need a plan when the students come back for the COVID. I think that was a very good thinking.
Okay. Any further comments on Ms. Benavides? All right, President Lawrence, how about your likes on our last candidate, Mr. Sanchez?
I love that he started an IB program. You know, we've got that here, and it's one of our best things. I like that he said he's going to create a culture of high expectations. I wonder if there's really a strong passion or desire to come to Lansing. That's all I have.
Okay. Trustee Lopez?
Yes, I think his work in CTE was very, and actually there are pathways in the high school that he went to. 12 years of high school experience, 2 years of assistant superintendent is great. You know, he comes, I think, ready to work at the next level of superintendency. I thought his experiences, both in Texas and in Indiana, were good. As far as coming to Lansing, were the questions, I didn't catch any hesitancy from him should he be selected for superintendent in Lansing. So I think that he also mentioned the helping students succeed. I think goes in terms of high expectations for students, and certainly students are the central to what he's done, student success. So I like that a lot.
Okay.
That's all I have for now.
All right, thank you. Trustee Lilji?
Thank you. I too was like, IB, pathways, that was cool. I also thought that his unique experience connecting students with college counselors and overseeing that for a big system was interesting. And the way that I think he did a good job of describing the way that he sees the design of the systems and cultures that has to have some continuity as a way of helping with student achievement, that they're it makes me think of my marketing director for my day job talks about how, what is the customer journey like? We just have to make sure that the story we're telling and the product that they're receiving is cohesive, and that journey doesn't suck, is what he says all the time. And I get the feeling that, like, we have so many great things, but sometimes, if there's inconsistency or incontinuity from one thing to the next, that it doesn't kind of make sense. And that could be a place that we could lose buy-in. But this idea of like, he talked about universal design in a classroom, and I think that I could see him creating that bigger, zoomed out universal design for an entire district, which I thought was really interesting. I appreciated that big picture thinking. That's the kind of thing I think that the kind of purview somebody needs to have when they're looking at a big series of big systems like we have here. I loved the Wi-Fi buses. And I appreciated that he had so many questions for Gabe. When he had the opportunity to ask, he was ready to learn more. My wonder is really about, I think, leadership style, personality fit. And I don't know, I guess I don't know what I'm looking for there, but he seems like a really likable person and really even-tempered, and I could see how important that could be. But there also has to be, I know, a sense of passion and backbone and I don't know the word I'm looking for. But I just wonder about that personality style, leadership style, and fit. I think this is a really, really hard job that we are hiring someone for. And there's some tenacity that, maybe this is my bias coming out, but I feel like we need to see that tenacity and that grit. But I could be wrong. Thank you.
You, Dr. Rodriguez.
Thank you. I appreciate. I agree with the previous board members. I think that you had to my respect for what he did when he was a principal in a high school of more than 3,000 students. And what he did there, I like that he mentioned the word equity and how we need to address in case that we have something like that we need to address right away. I don't understand why I mentioned so many times about the strategic plan. And I think that maybe is think that everything is on the strategic plan or many other things, but I mentioned during the interview and then after the interview, the strategic plan. I like anybody else visibility, but what I like about his visibility is I attending different functions of the students, then I got dialogues and conversation with them. That was another good thing. I like the idea of how we can keep or prepare enrollment and students enrollment, PK and before, and how we can bring more students to our district, and that is a plus. And that he mentioned something about enrollment, that we need the students in our district. Definitely agree with Missy and the pathways and how he put that in different terms, but it's more or less, I think the pathways are ahead of what, just to know where you are going to be when you are in grade 9. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Vice President Willis?
Thank you. I don't have anything to add as far as the pros. They were all nailed. And I love that there was an overlap on the things that this candidate emphasizes his strength, that were also things that are shining stars for the school district. Wonders. So unlike our first candidate, this candidate didn't tie anything to his central office or as much of his answers to his central office experience, and had it more focused on when he was in the building, which is, there just wasn't a great balance there. I'm trying to recognize that he's only been in his assistant superintendent role for a short period of time. I would have liked to see more examples of leading systems from a central office superintendent role.
Okay. Trustee Moore?
Ditto, everybody.
All right. Dr. Burrows?
Yeah, I actually have something different to say than everybody else. I thought I was going to run out, but I've got one or two things. I agree with most of what I've heard before. I really liked the emphasis on curricular coherence of visualizing the curriculum as stretching across grade band. I think we don't spend enough time thinking about that. I know it's implicit in some of the pathway work, but I really think we can do a better job there. So I like that perspective. I really appreciated the detailed, systematic approach to building and sustaining a program. I thought that that was a real strength of this candidate. I did have a few wonders. I was concerned about the breadth of management experience. But my more of my concern is that, in my opinion, being a superintendent is partly a running the train job, but it's also a political job. And it's about engaging external stakeholders and being able to rally support. And I didn't hear a lot of that from the candidate. And I did hear a lot of talk about meeting accountability requirements and meeting compliances from the state. And that's not, to me, that doesn't always necessarily sound like someone who's a leader. That sounds like someone who gets, okay, here's what I have to do, which is, you grow that, right? You can grow into that more expansive role, but I didn't see that forward-looking element quite as much as I saw in terms of the internal pieces.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Body?
I don't have anything unique to say. That's not a negative, though. I thought the positives that my colleagues have outlined outweigh the negatives or the questions that my colleagues have outlined. And I think that my overall impression of him is quite favorable.
Yeah, thank you. And Trustee Hodgin. All right. So this is where we are. I will send out that last batch of survey responses to you. Yes.
I'm sorry, he didn't interrupt. Can we just clarify that Ms. Hodgin is not trying to get off mute or isn't stuck? We just want to give her like a couple more seconds to make sure. Ms. Hodgin, are you there? Raise your hand, type something in the chat, something so we can just make sure we're not overlooking your input.
Oh, there she is.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Good for her.
You're muted.
Amy, if you're speaking, we can't hear you.
No?
Amy, we want to hear from you.
Amy, we can't see your face to see if you're speaking.
Amy, no te oímos. Amy.
I'm muting. Ahora estoy.
There you go.
There you go.
Ándale. Te tengo que hablar en español, mujer.
No, I really liked him more than I thought I was going to. Oh, we're talking about Mr. Sanchez, right?
Yes.
No, I was a little bit disappointed. I did like about the IFB program. I think that his story about the first year as principal, how he planned to show a video, that was an interesting story. I think the part that I liked the most was the visibility, means presence, and he walked around his buildings, and he liked to reach those students whether they were alone or not during his walks, to see how they're feeling. He seemed like a caring person. And yet, for some reason, he did not touch me. Anyway, thank you.
Okay. Amy, since I've got you, do you have any comments on the other two candidates from tonight that haven't already been said, or anything you'd like to add?
No, I don't.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Vice President Willis. Appreciate it. So as I was saying, I will make sure that I get out that last batch of surveys to you. One thing to keep in mind, and I mentioned this in one of the previous emails, that at this point, some of those surveys will have answers from all three candidates. So just make sure that you take a look at the first page, at the top of the page, to make sure that you're reading, which candidate you're reading about. Because sometimes, those first ones were all about the first candidate, but then the second ones, there's some from the first and from the second, and then the third, there's going to be some from all three. So as you get those batches, just make sure you read through those. Other than that, I don't have anything else for tonight. We will get back together again tomorrow night to do 2 more interviews, and then we will break those down, and then we will discuss all 5 and figure out who you'd like to bring back for second round. Also start putting some thought into what the second round looks like for us as far as logistics, where we're going to host it, what we're going to do for a backup room or an overflow room. We'll be limited to 25, and seeing that there's 9 of you, candidate and myself, that puts us at 11 right there. And so that's not going to leave us a lot of room for additional people in the room. So we'll need to have an overflow. And then I think we'll also, you're also going to want to broadcast it out as well. So just think through some of the logistics for that, and we can talk about that tomorrow as well. Any questions for me tonight? All right, thank you, everybody. Very nice job tonight. Appreciate it. Yes.
Nope, that's it.
Oh, that was a wave goodbye. Okay.
That was a wave goodbye.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow.
6 o'clock tomorrow.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good night, everybody.
Wait, we're not done. Are we done?
We're done.
Adjourned?
Did we adjourn?
We're
Okay.
adjourned.
All right.
All right. I just
Bye.
wanted to know that we were adjourned.
Bye-bye.
I know, bye.